Welcome to another episode with me, Victoria. How are you doing today? I'm very excited to talk about this topic, or this title, should I say, of my episode, because this was something that I honestly thought had happened to me. And the title is Food Addiction, Is It Real? So before I go into it, just check in with yourself and just question if you've ever thought you've been addicted to food before. Because going back a few years, I honestly thought I was addicted to foods, especially sugar and chocolate and ice cream and all those things. I've read books on it, listened to podcasts about it, and everything that they was describing in the books, in the podcasts, just confirmed how I felt and how I was acting around sugar. And actually part of my brain liked the realization that I was, quote, addicted to sugar, because it was almost like an excuse as to why I couldn't control myself. It was almost like it wasn't my fault. I was addicted. So I put myself on a quest to completely cut it out of my diet, promising myself that I would never eat the poison that is white sugar ever again. And I'm sure you can guess how that ended up. It lasted about 3 days. And there's many times I've done this. This wasn't the only time I've tried. I've tried again and again and again. And the last time I remember me doing it many years ago, it lasted 3 days. And there I was again, after those 3 days, sat on the sofa, belly so full that I can hardly breathe, loathing the sight of myself and all the empty chocolate wrappers around me. But even still, the diet voice was there. It would say things like this: now that you've binged on chocolate and sugar again, write down how shit you feel right now. Because then when you give up sugar again on Monday, for real this time, you can have something to refer back to. You can read what you've written in the moment when you're full of self-hatred and regret, and it will stop you from eating sugar again. Maybe some of you can relate. You're not alone in this. I promise you that. And it's what a lot of experts say in this personal development world, isn't it? To take full responsibility of yourself and to remind you that you are in control and everything in life is always a choice. Want a better life? Make better choices. Want a better life? Ask yourself better questions. The amazing Tony Robbins said that. But there's two things that are wrong with that statement in the context of food. Number one, in order to make a conscious choice, we need to be in a relaxed state to be able to do so. Whereas chronic dieters who are stuck in the diet binge cycle have so much food and body trauma, it's impossible for them to be able to make any kind of relaxed, conscious choice or decision around food. That is, until they do the inner work that enables them to be in that relaxed, conscious state to then make choices for health or nutrition or whatever is important to them. But until they've done that inner work and the food and freedom work, which I teach in depth in my programs, it's almost impossible to be in that state. The second thing that was wrong with that, what I've just spoke about taking full responsibility and then everything is a choice, is that eating is a biological need. It's a natural animal instinct, just like breathing and thirst. And when we restrict, whether that's cutting out food groups, stopping eating sugar, restricting calories, or even thinking about needing to go on another diet, our bodies biologically, seriously, I can never freaking say this word. Our bodies biologically, there we go, crave high fat, high sugar foods. What happens is your biology, aka everything that's going on inside your body, your hormones, the way it communicates between nerve endings and nerve cells to your brain, it literally physically changes to drive you to eat these types of food. So to learn more about that and to go a bit more in depth, and I've got an article that you can read, and in the blog version of this video or podcast, you can click on it just directly from there. But what I'm going to do this episode is to reveal the truth about food addiction. And every time I say the word food addiction, by the way, I'm using quotes, and I'm not going to use air quotes on this video like the whole time I'm talking, because I feel like I'm just doing rabbit ears the whole time. So just so you know, every time I use the word food addiction, it's going to be in air quotes, so that you can see that you're not broken, you're not weird, or you're not addicted, just like I used to be. And all you need to do is actually come back to yourself and know that there is another way. So are you ready? You was born ready. All right, so I want to talk about food addiction or diet addiction. I'm going to start off with food addicts, again in quotes. If you think you're addicted to food instead of being addicted to dieting, then you are absolutely wrong. Okay? As humans living in this particular society, we genuinely believe that it's a really noble, healthy, important, and responsible thing to do, to spend our entire lives trying to manage this food addiction problem. We're all petrified of being addicted to food, either becoming addicted or being currently addicted to food or sugar or whatever it may be. But here's the thing, listen very carefully. Restricting food will have your body and your brain mimic an addiction to food. So let me just say that again. Restricting food will have your body and your brain mimic an addiction to food. You can't be addicted to something that you need to survive. I'm going to say that one again as well. This is by the amazing Caroline Dooner. You cannot be addicted to something you need to survive. Usually with food addiction, with an actual addiction, sorry, not with food addiction, such as drugs, the more you have of the thing that you're addicted to, the worse the addiction gets. Whereas ironically, food is the opposite to that. When you are finally fed consistently, that's when most people find that their actual addiction just slowly melts away. If it really was an addiction, that wouldn't happen. I like to call it more of a fixation on food instead of a food addiction. Even though it can feel like an addiction, I can assure you it's not an addiction, it's just a deep, strong fixation on food. And when we're fixated on food, our hunger hormones change, our bodies make biological, there we go, I said it this time, our bodies make biological changes to ensure that we are constantly kept fixated on food. It makes food taste better, it makes you feel hungrier, it will also make you binge on food and then gain weight really fast as an actual way to save your life, to prepare for the next famine that it thinks is coming. I know that's not helpful, but that's what your body and mind are doing together. They're trying to protect you. So then when we experience that, we're like, see, I told you I'm totally addicted to sugar. I'm going to put myself back on another diet. And so the cycle continues. Most of us think we are food addicts when actually food addicts are really diet addicts. So let me explain that a little bit more. Every time we blow it and let our, quote, addiction control our lives, we binge on food, go on a food bender, whether that's for a night, for a week, or for months. What we do is we then put ourselves on another diet. All of this just keeps us focused in this food fixated state. What most of us actually need to do is to address our addiction to body manipulation and dieting. That is the roundabout way for the majority of people to address their, again, quote, food addiction. And I want to just hop in here and just say a little bit about emotional eating. We can and we do use food as a way to numb and to soothe ourselves. So I don't want to say that this isn't a piece of the puzzle. However, this is key, the more restricted we are, the more effective food is for us as a drug. The more we get out of that restrictive cycle, whether that's physical and mental restriction, that's also key here, the less our brains will reward us when we do use food as comfort. I really want to say that again. It's really, really important you get this. So I'm going to say that again. The more we get out of the restrictive cycle, whether that's physical restriction or mental restriction, the less our brains will reward us when we do use food as comfort. Because when we're either dieting or thinking about dieting, our brain actively rewards us for choosing food to comfort ourselves. And that's because our bodies have been sending our brain signals telling it to eat high fat, high sugar foods now because there's a famine coming. That's how it works. Our bodies haven't adapted for hundreds and hundreds of years when it wasn't such a thing to just nip to the shop and get an abundance of food. So your body is biologically helping you. So just learn to make peace with that. And again, what this means is that when we do eat, when we're actively physically or mentally restricting, again, it's not just physical, it can be thinking about dieting or thinking that you need to stop eating sugar or whatever it may be, the brain rewards us in a very similar way to that of an addict getting their fix. For example, a drug addict getting their fix of drugs. Your brain has a very similar, not the same, but a very similar response when we eat our banned, quote, bad foods, when we're actively or mentally restricting. But when we're feeding ourselves enough food consistently, our brain doesn't reward us in the same way as before. And therefore, what happens is food naturally falls away as our only coping mechanism. That's not to say that it wouldn't be helpful to find other ways to help us to take care of our emotions and our trauma if that is a missing piece of the puzzle. But blaming it all on food and food addiction is just not a helpful way whatsoever about healing your relationship with food and your body. And I just want to clarify here that it's totally okay if food is one of your coping mechanisms. But what can happen is when it's the only way you know how to deal with your emotions, it can become super unhelpful pretty fast. So the way forward, the goal, if you like, is absolutely chucking it down. If anyone can hear beautiful meditation, rain music in the background, it's literally actual rain. Sorry, I divert. Let me just go back to where I was. So the way forward, the goal, if you like, with emotional eating, aka using food to soothe your emotions, is to explore and expand other ways to help you cope with your emotions without making choosing food wrong. That's key. Because choosing food to soothe yourself and to comfort yourself is not wrong, no matter how much society has taught us otherwise. That's most likely the whole reason why you choose food as a coping mechanism to begin with, because you've been dieting for so many years. It just perpetuates a problem, and it's almost like fuel to the fire. Do you see? So that's why restriction is never, ever the answer, no matter how much you eat emotionally. Even though this is so counterculture and it can be a lot for people to wrap their heads around this, but honestly, it's so liberating and it makes so much sense when you're actually practicing this. The only way, in capital letters, underlined in bold, the only way to food freedom and sanity around food is to allow all foods with no judgments. If you want help with that, this is what I do. I'm an expert in this. I have an amazing, if I do say myself, 4-month in-depth. We go in depth in so many different areas of this and body image and all the things. That's took me over a year to build. And I have a 4-month program. So if you want more information, just ask me and I'll be more than happy to give it to you. But the last part I want to share with you in this episode, and I invite you to get your journal, piece of paper and a pen. And I invite you to journal these questions, because the main question in all of this is, what is underneath the addiction to diet? Because don't forget, you're not addicted to food, you're addicted to dieting. What's underneath that? I've got 7 journal prompts to read to you. And again, I really encourage you, if you can, to pause this and answer each one or write them down or whatever. But I really encourage you to do this, not just listen and think, oh yeah, that would make sense. Actually take pen to paper and allow the answers to come. Okay, so number 1, why do I want to diet? And what am I hoping to achieve by doing so? Number 2, what's underneath that? Why do I want to achieve blank through dieting? Number 3, why do I make blank mean? Sorry, what do I make blank mean? What will change in my life if I was to have that? Number 4, will blank, of course, blank is whatever you filled in for the reason you want to diet, will blank really magically happen and fall into place if I was successful at dieting? Number 5, is dieting, and then what comes with dieting, binging, the struggle, the low self-esteem, etc., is that really worth achieving blank? Number 6, can I look to achieving blank in a different way? And number 7, what can I learn about myself after I've gone through this journaling exercise? So let me know if you do the journaling. Oh, we've just had lightning, how cool. Let me know if you do the journaling, and can you hear that thunder? Oh my gosh, I kind of love a storm. Let me know if you do the journaling. I would love to hear from you. Honestly, each and every single one of you listening to this podcast, watching this YouTube video, you mean the world to me. And I mean that from my heart, because without you, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here helping people and serving women. And I'm just so grateful for you. So let me know if I can ever answer any questions you may have. And I'm sending you so much love from the bottom of my heart, as always. And I will see you in the next episode, which, by the way, let me just make sure I'm getting my dates lined up right. Yes, the next episode, oh my freaking God, I am so excited to introduce my guest next episode. So all I'm saying is prepare yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Mwah.